I'm Vinny Politan. Thanks so much for joining us here on Closing Arguments. This is the affidavit heard around the world. Many of you probably clicked on and read through it and trying to figure out exactly what it all means, the picture that it paints. We're going to continue to go through this thing for you to try to gain a better understanding of what investigators' evidence is, what evidence is missing, and how it's going to play inside the courtroom at a murder trial that could be a death penalty murder trial. Now, everyone that has gone through this, one thing that shocked us all the first time, still trying to process and figure out how this happened and what happened and why it happened, in terms of the surviving roommate who saw the killer that night, who was awake, who may have been seen by the killer, but survived, was not attacked, was not killed, but saw some things and heard some things that are going to be so important. She's going to be such an important witness in this case. Let's go right now back to that affidavit. I'm going to read it for you. You ready? DM, this is the roommate that survived, one of the surviving roommates, Dylan, stated she was awoken approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Goncalves playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms, okay? Dylan's on the second floor. Kaylee Goncalves is up on the third floor with Maddie, which were located on the third floor. A short time later, DM Dylan said she heard who she thought was Kaylee say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." Dylan stated she opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Xana's room, which is on the same floor that Dylan is on. Dylan then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Whose voice is that? Is that the killer's voice? Or is it her boyfriend Ethan's voice? Dylan stated she opened her door for the third time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. Dylan described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. The male walked past Dylan as she stood, and this part is really, everyone's wondering about, a frozen shock phase. The male walked towards the back sliding glass door. We've seen that door plenty of times here. Dylan locked herself in her room after seeing the male. She did not state that she recognized the male. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene. I can't imagine what that young woman went through that night, that following day, that morning. Oh. But a lot of people are wondering, she didn't call 911. How is that going to play inside the courtroom? What does that mean about her observations? Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Kaylee Painter. She is live tonight, like she has been outside that house, the crime scene in Moscow, Idaho. All right, Kaylee, I went through this, words on paper. You have taken it another step to another level. You've developed this floor plan. Walk us through what this all means.
Yeah, Vinny, this was very revealing to me because I've drawn out the floor plans in this home, and this reveals now that Dylan Mortensen was on that second floor, bedroom number 2. That's where she was. She had this prime location to hear and see what was happening around 4:04 a.m. to 4:20 a.m., that critical time frame. Here's what that floor plan looks like. And based on her story, based on this affidavit, based on me being here, this is what makes sense to me, that this perpetrator started possibly on the third floor where Kaylee and Maddie are, That's where the sleeve of the knife is located. That's where Dylan first hears noises above her, as if Kaylee Goncalves is playing with the dog. That's the first time she looks out the door. So then the movements, if you follow the red line here on the graphic, comes down the stairs into Xana and Ethan's. Dylan looks out the door a second time, hearing crying coming from Xana's room. She hears someone say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." And then for the third time, that's when we see in the affidavit about 4:17 a.m. when the dog starts barking. There's a loud thud that is heard on a neighbor's security camera. And then she opens that door the third time where her room is, and that's where she sees this male in a mask, dark clothes, walking towards her. So that would have to come from the direction of Xana and Ethan's room towards her that way, where this person then, according to the affidavit, she says goes towards through the kitchen towards the back glass sliding door. That has to be on his way out, because we know at 4:20 his vehicle is seen speeding away from this scene. So that puts it together in a visual of what we believe happened. And I had another thought as you were talking, Vinny, because remember, Dylan's statement starts at around 4 a.m. when she's awoken. She wakes up hearing noises and someone saying, "There's someone here." Remember when I told you earlier last hour that a DoorDash delivery happened around 4 a.m.? What if maybe that was someone for the DoorDash delivery, if it wasn't just leave the food on the floor, on the front door? Or maybe someone saying, "There's someone here." Maybe that was the food instead of the perpetrator. We know Xana's awake as well, according to this affidavit, and they think maybe that possibly Xana maybe was the one saying there's someone here, since she was active on her social media up until 4:12 a.m. So I still think, though, what that graphic shows makes sense, because the first noises, rumblings that Dylan hears come from above her on the third floor, the room directly above her, which would have been where Kaylee and Maddie were, Vinny. So hopefully that makes sense. Here's another view of that part of the home as well from the outside.
And are we 100% certain from the affidavit of the timing of the DoorDash to when the car parks or the car makes its final pass? Is the final pass definitely after the DoorDash delivery has occurred?
Right. According to this affidavit, it says there was Kernodle received a DoorDash order at the residence at approximately 4 a.m. They've spoken to this DoorDash driver. It looks like the DoorDash driver maybe came forward on his or her own. So around 4 a.m. And we know around 4:04 a.m., as we discussed earlier, that last pass in front of this house transpired.
Right.
So,
which would get him in there probably.
And she woke up around 4 a.m. is what Dylan says. She woke up around 4 a.m. So it's all kind of approximate in that same time.
Yeah. Her time of when she woke up, my guess is probably a little more foggy, right? That's not as precise. The DoorDash would probably be more precise, because they probably have some record of making the delivery and when that delivery person was there. And I'm just wondering, I don't think it's possible that the DoorDash comes while there's a murder taking place upstairs. I can't imagine that. I mean, I guess anything's possible, but I don't think that is the timing of all of this. All right. And she saw the bushy eyebrows, which tells me if she sees his eyebrows, there's a pretty good chance that he saw her.
We don't know. It's possible he did, or maybe he was so worked up or focused on his path. Maybe she only had her door cracked a little bit and peeking through, and he just didn't see her. We don't know.
Wow. Okay. There was activity at the house today. Today, behind you. What happened?
Yeah. There was, all of a sudden, it happened all of a sudden. About half a dozen vehicles, law enforcement, unmarked vehicles, pulled into the drive behind me, Vinny, and familiar faces I've seen here on the scene since week 1 when we hit the ground covering this story. So same faces, they backed in, and then we watched as they spent about 30 minutes bringing out items of evidence. These are investigators. This is not the cleanup crew. These are pieces of evidence for this investigation. I watched them bring out mattresses, mattress frames. They had them covered, with fitted sheets. They had the mattress frames wrapped in other like stools, maybe a nightstand, and they had them covered with protective wrap, probably to keep us from seeing exactly what it looked like, but also just to protect the evidence too as well. So that was interesting. And again, about half a dozen of them, and then they left here today not answering any questions.
All right, Chanley Painter in Moscow. I know you're going to stay with us, but I want to bring in the think tank right now. I have a few questions for them. Joining us tonight in New York City, former senior homicide prosecutor Bernardo Villalona. In Cleveland, Ohio, criminal defense attorney Ian Friedman. And in San Diego, California, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Brian Watkins. You can contact Brian at brianwatkinslaw.com. Thank you, everyone. Great to see everyone together tonight. And it almost looks like Ian and Brian are a little bit color coordinated tonight. Isn't that impressive, Bernardo?
Think about it. We're on the same page tonight.
Yeah, very good. All right, Bernardo, let me start with you. Dylan, the surviving roommate, sees and hears so much here, yet she didn't call 911. We don't know why. We don't know if she passed out. We don't know if she froze. We have no idea why investigator or police were not called that night after seeing what she saw, hearing what she heard. Is that going to be a problem at the trial? Will that be a problem with her as a witness in this case?
So Dylan not calling the police is going to be an issue, but I think a minor issue in the sense of because you have all of this evidence so far in terms of the cell site data. You have the DNA at the house. You have also the consciousness of guilt of him changing his plates after this happened. But still, the prosecutor is going to have to provide an answer to the jury, an explanation that may not make any sense at all, but have to provide an explanation, because that's a question that those jurors, no matter which jurors you select, are going to ask. Why didn't you call 911 after you saw someone inside of the house that didn't belong there? What happened during that time span? What exactly happened? What did you say? What did you do? What were your next steps? So an explanation, I think, would do, because of all the corroborating evidence that already exists. I think it's going to be a minor issue.
And, I've heard different people talk about different reasons why, but she says she froze and she locked herself in her room, meaning that she was in fear for whatever, based upon what she observed. So, Ian, let me ask you, it's the same question, because I think it's such a huge part of the case. Does this create a problem? Does this create an opening for the defense? And the reason I say that is I read social media, okay? Because I look at social media as like the 13th juror, and what folks at home are thinking and wondering out loud. And I've seen this happen during trials, that all of a sudden there's these alternative theories because something just doesn't make sense to people, and then they're like, they're gone. They're so distracted by that, they don't focus on the prosecution's evidence. So what's your take on this issue?
And that sometimes is what we as defense lawyers are hoping for, right? But we don't know a lot of the facts here. This is going to be, you said in the opening, this could be a death penalty case. There's going to be a lot. Now, maybe it will grow, we'll learn more, and that aspect of the case, her closing the door, will have greater meaning and perhaps will be raised as a potential greater doubt. But with what we have right now, I'm with Bernardo. It's a very strong forensic case at this point. And I think it's easily explainable, because we're sitting here on a Friday night talking about it rather academically, and we don't have someone clad in a dark outfit and so forth in the middle of the house at night. Under those circumstances, I think anyone would understand and really accept someone saying, look, I just froze. I was terrified. I can't explain it, because we don't know how we're going to act until we're in that situation. So I think it's a pretty easy explanation. And I think then, unless something more grows of it, I think without that, all the forensics here is really going to be what the defendant's problem is.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Like I could see a young woman, a young man, a student. I could see an adult in the same circumstance, like you don't know what to, and something happens. The problem, Bryan, is again, I'm reading social media, and there's a faction of people, and someone like that could end up on this jury that just can't get past it. They can't get past that fact, and they make it into something really big. Do you know what I mean?
I do. And, you know, that can be easily explained. You know, you got to understand that this was a party house. This is college. The kids are up at 4 a.m. And so a young girl who's had, you know, got people in their house partying, staying up at 4 a.m. is probably not unusual. Does she think it's a murderer that's killing everyone in the home? Or does she think it's some other drunk guy that's in the home and she doesn't want to deal with him? And so she shuts and locks her door. But when you really look at it, she didn't call the police. So what? What are you saying when you say that as a defense attorney? That she's in on it? That she killed him? That what? I mean, what's the point that because she didn't call the police? What really point are they making by that? How she reacts is somewhat irrelevant unless they're trying to say that she had some part to play in this, which I don't think they're ever going to go there. So a young girl that didn't want to push the panic button because she sees a guy in the house. There's probably guys and girls partying, leaving, coming and going at late hours. She doesn't want to say anything. She doesn't want to hit the panic button. She doesn't want to deal with them, thinking maybe he's drunk. She shuts the door and locks it, but doesn't call 911. It's easily explainable, but even if she doesn't explain it, it's somewhat irrelevant because what does that mean? You know, only thing that would be relevant to is if you tried to include her in somehow participating in this.
All right, I'm hoping that the jury sees it that way, that it's irrelevant because there's so much other evidence. But again, we're at the beginning of this. Think Tank with us the whole hour. Bernardo Villalona, Ian Freeman, Brian Watkins. When we come back, where's the murder weapon? Where's the murder weapon? And where was the defendant the day after, and where was he going? We're going to take a closer look at that when we return. The life of Alec Murdaugh is bizarre. It is complicated.
This great South Carolina attorney is charged with the murders of his own wife and son.
Okay, and are they breathing?
No, ma'am.
Who exactly is this guy?
Everybody knows the Murdaughs. It's a household name.
A family that is so powerful. Who knows where this thing is going to end?
This case needs to be resolved. We need to put this behind us and move on.
Murdaugh Family Murders. Live coverage beginning January 23rd. Only on Court.
Go online right now.
The scene wasn't chaos, you know, the neighborhood, but it was very, very somber. Like I said, that is a community of college students that live over there. Many of them, through word of mouth, knew what had happened. They were standing outside. There was a lot of crying. There were friends trying to find out who exactly was inside the house. Some family members that arrived on scene. It was incredibly hard for the community, but it was also really, really hard on our officers, some of whom were very young, and that was the first real major crime scene that they had encountered. So emotionally, it was a very, very draining day.
That's Captain Lanier from the Moscow Police describing that the afternoon after the murders. Remember, the murders are early morning hours, and then in the afternoon, he's describing the scene. Well, before that scene, a little bit earlier in the day, it seems like the accused killer returned to the scene of the crime. Take a look. This is from the affidavit. Further review indicated that the 8458 phone, that is allegedly the defendant's phone, utilized cellular resources on November 13th, 2022 that are consistent with the phone leaving the area of the defendant's residence at approximately 9 a.m. and traveling to Moscow, Idaho. Specifically, the phone used resources that would provide coverage to the King Road residence between 9:12 and 9:21 a.m. Back at the scene for 10 minutes. Then goes back home 9:32. 10 minutes he's there. He's probably there saying, what is going on here? Why aren't there police cars? Where's the crime scene investigators? Why isn't anyone looking for what happened? Nothing. It was just as if nothing had happened because he got there before police were even called. Let me bring back in Kaylee Painter. She's in Moscow, Idaho. Okay, so we've got these phone records that they're going to attempt to prove that he returns to the scene that morning. Where else did he go that day?
Yeah, Vinny, keep in mind, when he allegedly returned to the scene here the next morning, well, the same morning, but later at 9 a.m., spent 10 minutes here. This time took the quickest route, only took 10, 12 minutes to get here, spent 10, 12 minutes here, and then left. So we have him in Pullman, Washington, 9 a.m. He's here in Moscow, pinging at 9:12 a.m. That's a direct route here. And then he spends again about 10 minutes here before he gets back home at 9:32 a.m. According to this affidavit. That's a quick trip. One purpose, brings his phone, and I'm sure they have that white Hyundai Elantra on camera on those same videos, Vinny, that we talked about earlier. Now, what else did he do that day? Well, further cell phone data analysis provided authorities that on November 13th, this is later in the day, the phone is essentially traveling south towards Lewiston, Idaho, but on the way at 12:36, he stops at Kate's Cup of Joe in Clarkston, Washington. Then he spends some time there. They catch him on video. At 12:46 p.m., he's at an Albertsons grocery store in Clarkston, Washington as well. He's not only caught on video in this car, they have him inside the store. He buys items. They don't say what items. And he leaves about 1:04 p.m. that day. Then the affidavit picks up a few hours later. Again, he's still heading south because at 5:32 p.m. to 5:36 p.m., he's in Johnson, Idaho, a very rural area. And then his phone goes dark for 3 hours. Remember, overnight, his phone goes dark suddenly when it's moving towards the crime scene and then doesn't pick back up till he's on his way home. Well, for about 3 hours, 5:36 to 8:30 p.m., the affidavit says that same phenomena, whatever you want to say, turns into airplane mode, he turns it off, whatever it does, happens in that rural area of the state, Vinny, and that's sort of where it ends. Is that possibly an area that these authorities have been searching? Because maybe he didn't want that cell phone to help them track maybe where he disposed of that murder weapon that still hasn't been found that we know of, or any bloody clothes or other items. So I think that was very telling. We know that everything authorities put in an affidavit has some sort of relevance, Vinny.
Absolutely. Bridge Street down there, Clarkston, Washington, I see a river, there's water, and then there's a very rural area. Turns it off for 3 hours. There's no cell phone activity that they can track, and they've never found the murder weapon, right? We have the sheath to the alleged murder weapon that has DNA that they say matches him, but we don't have the weapon itself.
Exactly, not yet, or that they're telling us, Vinny, and that's been a constant thing from day one. No murder weapon, but they know what kind it is, and that sheath is also telling us for a specific type of knife.
All right, Kaylee Painter doing some fantastic work in Moscow all week. You'll be there next week. We'll be talking again. Get a little bit of rest, but dig up some more facts for us. Kaylee Painter, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let's bring back in the think tank, see how this is going to play inside the courtroom. Bernardo Villalona, Ian Freeman, Brian Watkins with us. Let's start here. Is this a problem, Ian, if the prosecution has this evidence that demonstrates the alleged criminal returning to the scene of the crime even before police got there? Because that's the cliche we've all been hearing our whole lives. You guys know better than we do because you may have represented 1 or 2 people who are guilty. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe they're all innocent. But we all believe that criminals return to the scene of the crime. Do you think that plays inside a courtroom, Ian?
Well, it's going to be played both ways. The defense lawyer is going to say, why would he possibly return to it if he did this crime? It doesn't make any sense, ladies and gentlemen. The other side's going to say, this is exactly what criminals do when they're narcissistic, they're sociopaths, they're psychopaths. He wanted to see if they were on his tail. It's going to be told both ways. He's got a lot of problems with the phone. He's a criminology student. He didn't do this very well. Certainly, and I know Bernardo and Brian will agree with me on that. Turning it off for those few hours, turning it back on, being in the area, him coming back, people I think are going to go with the prosecutor's version again. And I always stay limited, you know that, on what we know today. I don't think that it serves him well that he returned to the scene.
All right, Brian Watkins, is it a problem that there's no murder weapon here? And if they don't have a murder weapon, do you think a prosecutor can get up in the courtroom and say, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have a murder weapon because we don't know where he was for 3 hours the next day. We don't know where he went, so we don't even know where to look.
Yeah, and it's not a problem at all that they don't have a murder weapon because they have the sheath for the knife. So we know it was a knife, and they can prove that it was a knife by the medical examiner's report. So the bodies say that they were stabbed, and his DNA is on the sheath of the knife. So the sheath of the knife has worked just as well as the knife itself. And, you know, the fact that his cell phone turns off for those hours, that's a tough one. You know, they say you have the right to remain silent, and you do. But in situations like this, you're going to have to explain yourself. There's no getting out of it. So if he has an alibi at 4 a.m., I was over here, well, you better take the stand and tell us where you were and bring some proof. These are questions that he's going to have to answer. And that's what's key about what the prosecution has is these mysterious things. Well, why was your phone off for these times? They can pose those questions. And if you don't have good answers for them, that doesn't help your case at all.
Yeah, Bernardo, the turning off of the phone, you know who else did that? Jodi Arias did that. She turned it off. Didn't help her at all. As a matter of fact, it became a great piece of evidence for Juan Martinez and the prosecution saying, yeah, we see where she is here. Then all of a sudden, you know, the phone is off. And then, you know, just, you know, right around that window of the murder, it was off here during the window of the murder, and it's off again the next day for 3 hours.
I tell you, Vinny, the most damning piece of evidence against Bryan Kohberger is, number one, the cell phone, the vehicle, and then number three is the DNA on the sheet. In terms of turning off the cell phone, that's even more damning than him even having this phone on at different times, because it's during the specific time when the killings took place that his phone is off. And then when you couple it with his education, that he was looking into criminology, he has a criminal justice master's, and not sure if this is true, it's been confirmed, but that there's supposedly some Reddit post where he was looking for possible students to take part in, have you been gotten away with a crime? I want you to take part in their survey. Now, if they're able to confirm that that came from his account, that there, but that's the needle in the coffin. That's the nail on the coffin.
I know. I don't like to teach people how to commit crimes, but I'm shocked that the phone is with him. And you know what it is? He probably needed a map, right? Nobody knows how to drive without a cell phone anymore. Back in the old days, you know, you guys are too young, but back in the old days, I used to have a map. I had a map. I could open up a map. I can get to point A, point B. I didn't need it, but now I'm hooked on it too.